Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains episode review. This time, we will be going over episode 114 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, the final part of the Soulburner and Robopi duel. Generally speaking, what did I think of the episode? I genuinely thought it was one of, if not the best episode of Season 3 thus far. I absolutely loved it. If you watched my previous review on 113, I wasn't too high on the duel. I thought it was a little slow, as a lot of people said it's more of a setup duel for what's going to come. But boy, oh boy, did this duel ramp up to the extreme in this episode. About halfway through, Robopi starts losing his mind. The program that I gave him just starts to overwhelm him. And eventually, it gets to the point where he basically short circuits and he reverts back to his old self right before Soulburner delivers the final blow. But this episode, with all of the things going on in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains thus far, it's been kind of overwhelming with the amount of deaths and the amount of death scenes, and not all of the death scenes have kind of hit home. I think of like Spectre, who didn't even say a word. This death scene, Robopi's death scene at the end of this episode, I did not think it was going to hit me as hard as it did. Like, it was a really well-done, emotional death scene, which, for a robot, for what was at the beginning of the show, a cleaning robot for our main protagonist, I never thought that it would have, for me, maybe a top 3 death scene in the show. I don't know if it was at the level of Hartz for me, but it was up there. And I think what this duel did really well, I was someone who did not really like Robopi as a character. I liked Robopi a lot as a cleaning robot, as an appliance. I thought the comedic relief that Robopi brought was really, really good. And then became a human, or became a AI with free will, and wanted to destroy all humans, wanted to destroy humanity, became very cocky, became very arrogant, and that was that. I didn't really like him as much, but what they did really well in the first part of this duel was they kind of humanized Robopi a little bit. Shoichi kind of goes on a bit of a monologue and says Robopi got so much free will that Robopi's brain is expanding at such a quick rate, but he's so immature still that his heart is unable to expand and collect all this data and basically mature. And when Kusanagi made that reference, I saw the parallel of Robopi and a 7 or 8 year old kid who has all of this power and all of this ambition, but doesn't have the maturity that you would expect someone that's all-powerful to have. And when I kind of made that parallel, it made me relate to Robopi a little more. It made me kind of sympathize with Robopi a little bit. And then, of course, the second they do that, it's usually a bad sign, because you know probably a death is coming in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's exactly what happened in this episode. Robopi takes on more information as the duel gets more intense, and for a brief moment, I actually thought Robopi was going to win, and that's what I thought this episode did so well. There were so many different dynamics of it. On the first dynamic, you have a duel that Robopi could have won. Even Soulburner says, I have no way to stop Laundry Dragon's next attack, and then Robopi really short circuits, reverts back to the cleaning appliance that we all knew and loved from the first 2 seasons, and just ends his turn. Inexplicably ends his turn, because at this point he doesn't really have a concept and a grip of reality and what's going on anymore. And if he didn't end his turn and he attacked, Soulburner is defeated. And what does that go to show you? It goes to show that I is a force to be reckoned with, which I think we all knew, but I was able to create this program, create Robopi, and within 2 duels, Robopi already has surpassed Soulburner to the point where he can defeat Soulburner in a duel. That is terrifying. Imagine if I gives his program to a being that can actually hold that program, maybe like a Bowman or someone, a being that's mature enough and strong enough to not over-circuit and overload from a program like that. How are you going to stop it? This has already been a proven program that can beat Soulburner. So by that logic, I should be already above Soulburner, and Soulburner's a top 3 duel in this universe. So from that perspective, it was great. Soulburner obviously goes on and wins, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but Robopi realistically could have easily won this duel. Maybe not easily, but had a chance to win at the very end. Dynamic number 2. Ai has been portrayed to be the main villain of this arc. Whether he's going to be the final villain, the main antagonist, that remains to be seen. What his true motives are remains to be seen. On Robopi's last words, Robopi says, all I want to do is make my master, Playmaker Yusaku, happy by cleaning his room. That is all Robapi wants. That is when Robapi is at peak happiness. It's not Robapi wanting to conquer the world or destroy the human race or lead AI to a brand new future. That's not what brings Robapi happiness. What brings Robapi happiness is just pleasing Yusaku, making Yusaku happy by simply keeping his room clean. That is when Robapi is at peak happiness. Who took that away from Robapi? I did. Because of his own motivations and own desires, gave Robapi free will, and what did it lead to? It led to the destruction of Robapi. It led to Robapi's death and basically this dream of false happiness that was never going to be able to be achieved. And so I took that away from Robapi, and in turn took Robapi away from Yusaku and brought Robapi into this. So dynamic number 2 is it should make the viewer hate I and get angry at I for what happened to Robapi. Because if you have to break it down and say, well, who's to blame here? Who's to blame for this horrific death of Robapi? It's I. It's a character that has been portrayed all of a sudden to be the main villain of this arc, at least, and maybe this show. So that's a great dynamic. Dynamic number 3 is it further adds to the guilt that I is feeling, because I don't think that I did this maliciously. I don't think that I gave Robapi this program because he knew that it was going to short-circuit Robapi and kill Robapi. But I did know that Robapi's paths and his path would never cross again. When Robapi left the ship before going to his own country, I says goodbye, Robapi. So maybe he did know that Robapi was going to either lose to Soulburner or that this program was going to have a negative effect on him. He knew in some way, shape, or form that him and Robapi would most likely never cross paths again. And at the end of this episode, you can see that I did care about Robapi. And maybe Robapi was a necessary sacrifice for whatever plans he had, but I sheds a tear and says, Robapi, you were a good guy. I'm sorry to get you involved in all of this. And what does that do? It adds to the immense and tremendous guilt that I is already feeling. We know that the reason I is down this path is because he lost all of his Ignis comrades, and now he loses the only character that has supported him and been by his side the entire season, a character that he created in Robapi, and a character that he knows he is to blame for getting killed. And when you look at all of those dynamics and all of those just symbolic meanings, to me this is not even without a doubt the greatest episode of Season 3. Tremendous episode. Also seeing Robapi completely unhinged at the halfway point was terrifying. It was awesome. It did remind me a little bit of Sora, which I was hoping it was going to. Maybe it wasn't at that level, but it did remind me of that, which was really awesome. And Robapi dueled so well that he actually realistically beat Soulburner, but of course ended his turn, reverts back to a cleaning robot, and you just feel bad for him because he's on his stomach, he's on his back, and he's just helplessly rolling around, just talking about how he wants to clean Yusaku's room. And it was a very, honestly, just powerful and depressing scene. And that's why there's so much to dissect within I, because if I knew that this might happen or that Robapi would be killed off by Soulburner, you would think that he would just emotionlessly watch. But that's not the case. When Robapi started to turn because this program really started to affect him, you could see that I was getting concerned, that there was concern on I's face, and of course at the end shedding a tear. Maybe it was a necessary sacrifice that he knew he had to make, or maybe it was a genuine surprise casualty. Either way, I did care about Robapi, and so that's why it's not like I did this maliciously, but at the same time, he probably knew that this was good. Right? He's such a complex and troubled individual right now that I cannot wait to hear more reasoning for why he's doing all of this. And whenever him and Playmaker come face to face, it's going to be absolutely incredible. But Robapi's rolling on the ground. Yusaku just says, please finish this, man. And you can see that Playmaker was genuinely upset. Probably almost as upset as when, honestly, Kusanagi died. That's kind of the vibes I got the last time that he was really this upset. Just seeing sure, it's a cleaning appliance. It's not like it's another person, but it's almost like a pet. I feel like you can almost make that comparison, right? A pet brings you happiness and comfort and definitive love, or what's the term I'm looking for? Unconditional love. That's what I was looking for. And Robapi probably brought the same thing. Yusaku would come home from school, not making any friends, would go into his, room, It looks like that's all he lives in, like kind of a crappy apartment building. And who would be there to greet him every day with a clean room? Robopi. And so Robopi basically was like an animal, like a dog for him, like a pet that you have. And so to put down an animal is one of the toughest things to do. To put down your pet, it's excruciatingly hard to do, and it's very upsetting. And that's basically the parallel that I drew here when he said to Soulburner, please finish this. And Soulburner attacks with Heat Lyo, and Robopi then makes one last comment. He's like, this is a really pretty flame. I'm glad I got to see this. And then gets incinerated. Whether he'll be back or not remains to be seen. He definitely doesn't need to be. I think sometimes the hardest hitting deaths, I think of Bruno's death in 5Ds, are ones that in the moment you fear might be permanent, and that is kind of what I got from this death. It's kind of what I got from Earth's death as well. But we will just have to wait and see if Robopi will be revived. It definitely won't be anytime soon. And guys, I thought all around this was a really, really good episode of VRains. We have 115 next week, which I do want to address really quickly. It's Soulburner Revolver, which will be awesome. In the preview, Crunchyroll subs Revolver's name as Varus. They write Varus in the subtitles. If you're unaware, Varus is the English dub name for Revolver. I hope that doesn't become a trend, because for the first 114 episodes, you called Revolver Revolver, which is what his name is in this piece of media. This is the Japanese version. So to call them by their subbed names is what you should be doing. And if all of a sudden you're going to be calling Revolver Varus, Kusanagi Coulter, that's the English dub. And I'm someone who does not care about names at all. But when I'm watching the English dub, I want them to call them by their English dub names. When I'm watching the Japanese version, I want to see the subs of the Japanese names. I don't think that's a crazy request, so I really hope that all of a sudden, especially because the English dub still isn't available to people in the United States and in a lot of countries, so I really hope that Crunchyroll, which the subs are being done by 4K Media, don't start calling Revolver Varus, don't start calling Owie's Eyes in Sky. I really hope that is not what they're about to do in the last probably 30 episodes of the show, when for the first 114 episodes, they subbed them as their actual subbed names. So that was something that kind of was a little concerning, but I'm not going to get too much on it. We will see next episode if they do follow that trend, which I really, really hope they don't. But guys, let me know all of your thoughts on this episode and this duel and the death scene and anything coming up in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. I really love talking to you guys, and especially about this episode. I'm really excited to hear from all of you. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons: Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, James Rose, Samuel Stark, Thomas Adderley, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Vincent Van Der Veen, Jordan Osceola, Smith620, RedEye, FrostReaper, Jorge Leon, Melinda Phantom, and Blue Maiden 28, and to my Diamond tier patrons: Jesse Wood, Garrett Palmer, Galladiator, and Ben Hartz, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons: Syn Cloud, Matthew Kennedy ×2, Joss Rivers, and Chris Swan. Huge thank you to everyone who supports me over on Patreon, and a huge thank you to everyone who is a YouTube channel member. I cannot tell you how much it helps me out, helps out the channel, and I'm just very thankful for it. And thank you to everyone who just watches these videos, because without you guys, there would be no Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything. At the time of uploading, I am 4 subscribers away from 60,000, which is a massive milestone. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for that as well. I will talk to you all down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing